Welcome to Coast AM's YouTube channel. I'm George Norrie. Like, share, and subscribe. Also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and coasttocoastam.com. Become a Coast Insider for ad-free access to thousands of shows you'll really enjoy. Tom T. Moore back with us. He, of course, will be talking about the Earth experiment next on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with you. Tom T. Moore back with us, has been president and CEO of his own international motion picture and TV program distribution business for at least 24-plus years. During this time, he has co-executive produced several movies and TV shows and has traveled extensively as part of the business duties. He's an author as well. Mr. Moore graduated with a BA in Business Administration from Texas Christian University, served in the U.S. Army as a first lieutenant. Thank you, Tom. And he has been requesting benevolent outcomes for 10 years and has a very keen knowledge of how they can be used in both business affairs and in one's personal life, resulting in what he calls the gentle way. Tom, welcome back. How have you been?
Great. Thanks for having me, George.
Looking forward to this.
To everyone.
And your books are great. First Contact, Atlantis and Lemuria, The Gentle Way with Pets. We'll talk about everything today. But what is the Earth experiment? What is that?
The Earth experiment came about because the creator of this universe, and there's trillions of creators and trillions of universes, wanted to see if the four negative energies that exist, that no one in any of these universes had ever been able to work with, could be worked with. And so he, she, however you want to term it, created the Earth experiment, and it is only in our solar system. It only is the Earth and our solar system. Once you get out past the Oort belt, then you get back into the 10 positive energies that the rest of the universe operates on. So that's how it started. The Creator sent its emissaries to these planets, these ET planets, and said, this is what I want to do, and so I want you to start developing a body that could work within these four negative energies. And so they knew how to create bodies, but they didn't really have practical experience. And so they started with, like, the Lucy and the Littlefoot bodies, worked up through the Neanderthals and Cro-Magnons, and finally, 60,000 years ago, they came up with the Homo sapiens.
How much of an impact have they had on us? Probably a lot, huh?
Oh yeah, they've been around us for literally millions of years. That's why you were having all the information about the UFOs. That's going to increase, I'm told, in the next 6 months, to the point where I'm told that by my contact, Antura, he said, have your readers keep their cell phones at hand, Tom, because they're going to start seeing some UFOs really close.
I love that. And you think eventually governments will really begin to tell us, Tom, what the heck is going on?
Well, with a little help from us, I think. I've also been in contact with a Pleiadian, and this Pleiadian has a group of 3 or 4 of them, and they meet with 6 countries on a monthly basis. And these are like scientific types, and they're wanting to engineer these crashed UFOs and all. And they all think that they're the only ones that these Pleiadians are talking to, but in actuality, the Pleiadian makes sure that nobody gets ahead of anyone else. They're all on a level playing field.
Now, when you say you're in contact with a Pleiadian, how did that happen?
Through Antura. Antura is a member of my soul group, and he is an amphibian, and he was born on Nomo, a water planet in the Sirius B star system. And right now, he and his 3 grassroots first contact team are on a a Syrian mothership that's 3 miles wide and 20 stories tall.
Wow!
With 11 decks, crew of 900, plus their families. That because they lived their whole lives on board the ship, and this is the very same ship that went over Phoenix and was known as the Phoenix Lights. So it's shaped like a boomerang, and it sits up above us about 50 miles high and is cloaked so they don't scare us to death. But there's about 24 other motherships, and they're all taking these readings of these of the effects of the 4 negative energies. So it's all scientific readings, and they do these on a daily basis, millions and millions of readings.
When we see these smaller UFOs, are they all coming from these motherships, do you think?
Yes. Now, the craft like the saucer shape and all, those are kind of known as scout craft. But they can also control what are known as highly advanced drones. And these drones, one craft can control about 22 of these drones, and the drones do the work of taking all these readings of not only the land, the water, animals, birds, you name it, plus humans.
Tom, when you talked about the 4 negative energies and there's, 10 positive energies, do they counteract each other?
They can't really exist exactly with each other. That's why the Earth experiment came about, because no one in any of these trillions of universes could work with these negative energies. It was impossible. We're the first ones to be able to do that.
Do we have any results from the Earth experiment? I mean, is it working?
Oh, it's worked. It's successful.
Which is a good thing.
Yes. And this Earth experiment will go along for another 7,000 Earth years, and it'll be finished. And we'll all, by that time, have gone back to the planets that we originally came from. We all came from other planets, which is why when you see these movies about Star Wars, there really was a real Star Wars. It lasted for 27,000 universal years, but because Earth years are 10 times faster than universal years, that Star Wars lasted for 270,000 years.
How long have you been in contact with these ETs?
2008.
So about 15 years, going on 15 years. Interesting.
Yeah. And it's really gotten heavy in the last year because you have to understand, we haven't gotten into this. I'll touch on it now. But there are 12 parallel timelines. There are 12 parallel U's. So the upper timelines have easier lives, and the lower timelines have much harder lives. So as an example, Vietnam War did not happen on the upper timelines. So what's happened is that my family on the upper timelines, starting with, say, 11, because 12 is non-physical, they visited the Syrian mothership, and they've each timeline all the way down to timeline 7 has visited the Syrian mothership and shot for 14 days each. And so this year it's supposed to be our turn for us to go up to the Syrian mothership and shoot for 14 days.
And when you say Syrian, it's from the Sirius star cluster, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
And this particular ship, I believe, is from the Sirius B star system. They have people on board from 37 different planets, 39 different types of people, we'll call them, insect beings, bird beings, amphibians, even a couple of reptilians. I know I'm forgetting some, but you get an idea of quite a variety of people on board the ship.
The Efforts with Atlantis and Lemuria, how did that start?
60,000 years ago, the ETs seeded both Atlantis and Lemuria with Homo sapiens. Okay, and they tried to help these people out by giving them free energy. And for the Atlanteans, it was giant crystals known as posers that were magnetically charged so that they broadcast beams of energy, and that's how the whole continent ran. All the cars and airplanes and houses and apartments all had this free energy. The problem with it, the Atlanteans went ahead and developed it into weapons of war, and they developed laser weapons based on these energies. And the same thing happened with the Lemurians. They were given free energy, just a different type, and they developed hydrogen-type bombs out of that. And eventually both societies destroyed themselves.
Are they happy with the way our planet is going right now?
Yes, because they can see the future. They can go to the future and go to the past equally. So they know that the Earth experiment is successful, and we just have to catch up with the rest of this Federation of Planets, where there are 20,000 planets that are members.
Tom, back a year and a half ago or so, you wrote a book called The Gentle Way with Pets. Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. I have found that you can request benevolent outcomes not only for things in your life, but also your relationships with your pets. And I also, in these meditations that I do, where I've asked 30,000 questions in a meditative state, I found out that, as an example, there is one soul that ensouls every single dog on Earth. And there is one soul that ensouls every single domesticated and feral cat on Earth. And when I asked, well, what about the lions and tigers? Cat Soul said, Tom, we like to share the work. So the book gives you an insight into what we commonly call group souls, simply to differentiate, if I could say that, from our souls. But they're actually, the souls are the same, it's just they have different interests than we do. And just like the soul that ensouls our son, that soul has a different interest than we do. So that's how I get into, and I speak to snake soul, darn, and all sorts of other types of pets, parrots, and so on, and they generally tell me that they come from the far reaches of the universe, and that we have not yet discovered that the universe is actually 25 billion years old, not 13.2 or 6, whatever they estimate now. And the James Webb telescope is going to eventually say that it's 20 billion. But
wow, what a big difference.
But they still will not have seen the very far reaches of the universe, which is 25 billion years old.
So for people who have always wondered whether their pets have souls, you can give them comfort by saying, yes, they do, don't you?
Absolutely. And when they transition, you can say, I request a most benevolent outcome for Fido to come back for another life with me. And my guardian angel says, Well, we take that to a higher authority, and it's done. So, in other words, they get the same fragment of that dog soul back with them for another life, and that's very comforting for people to know that they'll have another life with that dog.
It's fascinating. Now, you believe in reincarnation of pets. Do they ever reincarnate into humans, or do they stay as animals?
They stay. If it was a dog, it'll stay as a dog. What happens when they transition is that they are guided along energetic pathways to what are called staging areas. And there'll be a staging area just for dogs. And they are assigned a new birth mother. And that birth may be in the past, present, or future. So if someone is requesting a benevolent outcome for Fido to come back for another life with them, they can't say, this dog is 3 years old and mine just died. It doesn't work that way. So just remember, whatever attracts you to that animal will be the correct attraction.
Now, you had mentioned before the break about these 12 parallel frequencies that are out there. Are they just basically parallel universes? What are they?
No, they're only for this solar system. So there are 12 Earths, and timeline number 12 is non-physical because our souls consider that to be the perfect life, and then all the others are physical. So we're on timeline 6, we're the middle frequency, which is why I was mentioning a little earlier that timelines 11, 10, 9, 8, and 7 have all visited the Syrian mothership, and now it's our turn this year.
Is there anything about what you have learned that scares you, frightens you, makes you uncomfortable?
No. The more you learn, the more amazing and wondrous creation is. You have to understand, ETs know there really, truly is a creator, because we're veiled from knowing, we don't know whether there's a creator or not. And a lot of people say, well, my God is better than your God, and if you don't believe in my God, you're not going to heaven. And that's not true.
I think there's only one God, huh?
There is only one creator. I use the word creator because that word is accepted in all the major religions.
Have there ever been wars in space, Tom?
Absolutely. The Star Wars I mentioned earlier lasted for 270,000 Earth years.
My
so
God!
You can imagine. Yeah, it's amazing. 27,000 universal years. So every single person having a life on this planet in previous lives where they were on other planets went through periods of time when their whole lives were lived in fear that they would wake up one day and see an enemy ship that was about to blow up their sun and destroy all the planets orbiting that sun and the billions of people that lived on those planets. And that happened on both sides, the reptilian Dracos and what became the Federation of Planets. They played that game back and forth, back and forth.
Now, your ET contact, how do they communicate with you? How does it communicate with you?
Simply telepathically. Everyone, and anyone can do this, okay, because everyone has what's called the pineal gland in the back of your head.
Right.
And in the Hindu religion, it's called the third eye, but it's your pineal gland, and it acts as an antenna for every kind of telepathic feeling, thought, you name it. And so I receive thought packets from all sorts of beings, but including Antura, and so that's how we communicate, with thought packets.
Fascinating. It really is. Are you glad this has happened to you?
Well, it was on my soul contract. I was shocked when I was told. I was about to close off the book back in 2013 on First Contact Conversations with an ET.
Right.
And he kept hinting, well, we're going to meet. Oh, great! We're going to get to meet, and you're going to get to fly in my scout craft. Oh, fantastic! Can I take some photos? Oh, yeah, sure. And finally, it was like using the old proverb, hitting a donkey over the head with a 2x4. He said, "Look, Tom, your family is going to come up to our ship, and you're going to shoot for 14 days, and you're going to have the complete run of the ship with the exception of the engine room, and we're also going to show you videos." They have been videoing our whole experience for over 1 million years, and they have these little bitty drone cameras that operate at a frequency just above our ability of our eyes to see them. And so they have captured on video every single major event that's happened on Earth.
Since you've been doing this, and you've been doing it for some time now, I mean, where's the future here? What's next?
Well, after we go to the ship, we're going to shoot enough footage for 1 and possibly 2 feature-length documentaries.
You're going to do a documentary on a UFO mothership, and they're going to let you?
Yes.
Wow.
It's going to be a 4-camera shoot. And
you'll see ETs running around and everything?
Yes. And
fascinating.
We're going to look at their art, their music, we're going to have interviews with all the different types of ETs on the ship, 39, and each one of those will become a one episode of a series. There's going to be at least 100 episodes. We're going to look at Neanderthals, and we're going to look at the history even of religions, which is going to be pretty controversial. And so that's the plan.
This will be the first documentary done with ETs, won't it?
Yes.
That's fascinating. What do they look like, Tom?
Well, they're all different, as I said.
As we've always thought, like alien grays, humans looking, everything like that?
Some of them, yes.
Reptilians?
Yep. Antura is amphibian. As I mentioned, they have bird beings that have a bird presence. They have insect beings. Oh, they have plant beings. If you can imagine an intelligent plant walking down the corridor, I mean, that's going to be kind of different. And these 2 reptilians, the reptilians, the war finally ended. There was what they call the Great War. They finally came to a peace accord, and so these 2 reptilians on the ship are looking and watching the people that have reptilian souls. As part of the peace agreement, 10% of all the souls that are having lives on Earth have reptilian souls.
This is fascinating stuff. You said a 4-camera shoot, so you're going to bring 4 camera people up there with you?
It's going to be my family, yes. My daughter has a degree in film from a university in Los Angeles. I won't mention which one right now. And I've co-executive produced some super low-budget movies and films, and which is going to be needed because it's just going to be us and the cameras and not much else.
What's your daughter think of Daddy who deals with ETs?
I try and shield my family from all of this. This is something that they're going to be immersed in for the rest of their lives, because I've already been told that my son and daughter will return in 10 years, and I won't be with them because I will have transitioned by that time. Now, whether it will be of old age or whether it will be violent because there are going to be millions of people that are going to be just despise me for telling the truth about their religions. I don't know.
Tom, there's a directive called the Earth Directive. What is that?
The Earth Directive came about after Atlantis and Lemuria destroyed themselves, and all these Federation of Planets, these 20,000 planets, got together and said, "Hey, look, we're going to have to leave them alone. They're going to sink or swim on their own. We obviously contributed to having two societies destroy themselves, and so we're not going to help them whatsoever. So everything that we invent is going to be on us. They're not going to give us anything."
Fascinating. It really is. And what do your friends say about this?
Well, they know me for who I am and what I've been.
They accept this?
Yeah, as far as close friends, yeah. But obviously, one of the nice things is that we are in the international film distribution business, but we're located in the DFW area, so we're not in Los Angeles. So I don't hobnob with other distributors or.
In May, I'm doing a live show, and one of my guests will be Travis Walton, and you know the name, of course, who was beamed aboard a ship, and his logging buddies, everybody passed lie detector tests as telling the truth. It's truly a remarkable story. How many people like you, Tom, are on this planet who have this kind of contact?
Not too many, I don't think. I'm an old soul, and I wrote my ticket, so to speak. I was this spiritual amphibious leader on Nomo, that water planet in the Sirius B star system. And during the Star Wars, I suggested that they offer the reptilians to have 10% of the souls take part in the Earth experiment. And they hated the reptilians so much because of all this very long war. They said, no, that won't work. And so another 450 Universal years went by, and we weren't doing very good. The Federation sounded like it was slowly losing the war. And so finally they said, okay, we'll try this. And they accepted. And so after that, the Federation said, well, you're going to be one of our advisors.
Let's talk a little bit about Atlantis and Lemuria, Tom, before we go to calls. Tell me about that situation.
Okay. Where do we start? Okay.
Exactly. Where do we start?
Okay. Atlantis, 30,000 years ago, there was a line of volcanoes that bisected the continent of Atlantis, which was in the Atlantic Ocean. And they all exploded at the same time due to the pressure of the plates going together.
Tectonic plates, yeah.
Right. And they exploded, and most of the continent disappeared at that time. And the seas rose over 160 feet, drowning everyone, not only that lived on the continent of Atlantis, but all around the world when these huge tsunamis came crashing in and wiped out every single village, town, and city all around the world. Now, that was the first really big destruction. Then 12,500 years ago, that's when the Poseidons and the Arians started warring, and the Arians did a Pearl Harbor type sneak attack and used these laser weapons, and 1.5 million people died the very first day of the war, but eventually all the islands sank. So that was and that happened 12,500 years ago, and that was also when the story of Noah came into being, because that actually happened. Then the Lemurians, 7,500 years ago, decided to bomb each other, and with these huge bombs, and destroyed their continent.
How close did Plato have it?
Well, Plato actually had access to some documents, or these, what do you call them, script things. I'm calling them the wrong thing, that his grandfather got from Egypt. His grandfather had traveled to Egypt and had bought these documents, and they're actually in a basement still somewhere in Athens.
Oh, really? Boy, they'd be worth a fortune today, huh?
Wouldn't they? And so that's where his story came about. People keep saying, "Oh, that was, he was alluding to the politics of the time," but it wasn't. He was really talking about what he had read in these old parchments.
You've got a weekly newsletter that you publish with conversations from your ET friend, don't you?
Yes, and others, my guardian angel and all. It's free. It's my gift to the world. Don't charge for it. You can go to my website at that www.thegeneralwaybook.com, and on the first page you can sign up for the newsletter.
And how often are you chatting with them?
I try and do it a couple of sessions a week. They're typically an hour and a half to 2 hours. I can't go more than about 2 hours because I lose my concentration.
Interesting. Okay, let's go to the phones. This hour is going to blow by real quickly. First-time caller Drew in Omaha, Nebraska with us. Hi, Drew.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Good to have you with us. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Just staying up a little bit later and listening to the radio. So,
it doesn't get any better, Drew, does it?
No, not at all. Yeah, I got a question. So, have you ever been on like a UFO or spaceship? I guess.
Tommy, have you?
I have not. No.
Not yet, anyway. But you will be when you do this documentary, right?
Yes.
Exactly. Are you looking forward to that?
I am. It's been promised for a long time, and as we got closer and closer, I kept asking questions. Well, has Timeline 8 been on the ship yet? Well, has Timeline 7 been on the ship yet? And that's Timeline 7 was on last year in 22, I think somewhere around May.
Have you ever asked them about their propulsion system, how they travel?
Yes, they call it portal hopping, and
they're like bending space and time, aren't they?
Yeah, and there are these energetic pathways between planets and also even between galaxies. So when they portal hop, they can't go from one end of the galaxy, one end of the universe to the other. They have to do what's called portal hopping, where they'll go from one galaxy to the next to the next.
Next up, speaking of next, Mayat's in New York City. Welcome to the show. Hello, Mayat.
Good morning, gentlemen. How fascinating. I had just picked up, and I have some comment and a three-parter, and Tom, I'll listen over the air. But I just picked up a book that I lucked on, and Amazon can be brilliant in that, and it's called The Extraterrestrial Species Almanac.
That's done by Craig Campobasso, a friend of ours.
Absolutely, and when I got it, Tom, and you know how you read the back first, And somebody we know named George Norrie had the most excellent and pithy, he said, the go-to book on life in the universe. So the first part of my question is, are you familiar with it? And George, please bring Craig on soon, because he actually lays out a number of species. So my questions would be, are you familiar with the book? And if you are the illustrations, do you feel they are pretty accurate? And he gives such an excellent breakdown in terms of the universal origin, the physical, the belief systems, the cosmic agenda, technology, consciousness, and dimensional abilities and capabilities. So it's just such a fascinating book that I had picked it up before I even knew you were coming on the program. My other comment is when you're talking about Atlantis, I had just read the Book of Secret Wisdom, the prophetic record of human destiny and evolution translated from the Senzar, Senzar, very, very, very ancient language by Novia Duskova, a Hungarian professor and scholar. And she had just described what happened to Atlantis vis-a-vis your comment, and that knowledge without love is dead. So any comment on that? But you seem to, I surmise that you have extraordinary psychic abilities. So if you have any tips for those of us who, want to work on that and better intuition. And the last part would be, what books and films do you recommend? I recently discovered Amazon Prime, which I haven't used, has loads of UFO and, ET films. So as I get on board with that, your recommendations and suggestions are greatly appreciated. Thank you, George.
Okay, you can take a few of those if you want, Tom. Go ahead.
Wow. Okay, I'm not familiar with that book. I can only go with the descriptions that Antura has given to me of a lot of the beings on board his ship. And as I say, his ship is a Sirian ship. So as an example, the Palladian ship, which is not quite as large as his ship, according to what the Palladian told me, they have a lot of different beings. I always thought that the first people that we would meet that would be ETs would look like us, because there are Palladians that look just like us, with exception maybe of pointed ears. And so I was really shocked when I first started talking to Antura, thinking that he was going to look like us, and it turned out he was totally different. And so that's kind of what I've had to go on, and so it'll at least be a start for us to show us that there are many different kinds of beings out in the universe, and if there are that many types of beings in the Sirius B star system alone, can you imagine what the rest of the universe will hold for us?
Do you have any psychic abilities?
Not really. I ask questions, and I'll receive predictions from when I ask questions, because people from all over the world, I have thousands of readers, and I get these questions in, and I write them down on the notebook, and then in these meditative sessions, I ask these questions and receive answers, and I estimate that I'm in the 80 to 90% accuracy. So, meaning that 10 or 20% of the time I'm not correct, and it can be because of planetary positions. Maybe I'm exhausted from my day work in the film business or whatever. But there are many reasons why you just don't always receive correctly.
West of the Rockies, Daniel's with us, Sonoma County, California. Welcome, Daniel. Go ahead, sir.
Hello, George, and hello, Tom.
Hi.
This is really quite exciting. Yes, I am actually a reincarnated Egyptian scribe.
Uh-huh.
I know a lot about Atlantis because I went deeper into that and realized Egypt is from Atlantis. That's where they went. You probably know this after they crashed each other out. The Lemurians, Atlanteans. And Lemuria, the last part of it that's left is Hawaii, of course. You probably know that Hawaii is the tip of Lemuria. But anyway, moving on, my question for you is, did you know about the healing machines they had in Atlantis that you would just stand in front of and it would clear your auras and heal you instantly? Have you heard of that?
Sure, I have. Now, how they did it, I don't know, but I have heard about that. And by the way, on the Egyptian side, I was inspired to create the Gentle Way back 12,700 years ago on a life on Poseidia, and I had 1 million followers. But because there was so much war starting to go on, I and 25,000 of my followers migrated to Egypt, and an Egyptian princess helped us settle, and that Egyptian princess is my wife today, and her next life will be as a man back about 12,500 years ago, and he'll be a great leader for his people, and I will be his assistant, which is a past life for me. It gets very complicated.
Interesting. Now, how do you get your recollection of past lives, Tom?
Oh, I just ask about them.
Aha. So it's not like you dream about it, know about it?
Sure. I mean, I write my dreams down every morning, but I just found as I'm asking all these questions, things keep coming up about past lives, and because I'm supposedly one of only 10 people in the world that have had over 1,000 lives. I'm on my 1,005th.
Jeez.
Dalai Lama is on his 1100th.
Why do you keep coming back, Tommy?
Because they tell me I've got 300 more lives to go, and all these people that are wanting to be leaders of countries want me to be with them, to be their advisor. And so in other lives, I'm advisors to world leaders, but not this life.
Holly in Santa Cruz, California. Hi, Holly. Go ahead.
Hopefully you're not drowning there.
Oh, my. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Sure.
Thank you.
I would love for you to elaborate on soul contracts. I'm really interested in that. And a couple of my questions is, does everyone have a soul contract? How do you do it? How do you know if you're messing it up? Like, what?
Okay. Everybody does have a soul contract. The way you stay on your soul contract, because we are veiled from knowing, and we're veiled because we're supposed to learn how to make trillions of decisions a second, like the Creator does. But that's a longer story. But anyway, if you want to stay on your soul contract, you say, "I request a most benevolent outcome." You say this out loud. To stay on my soul contract. Thank you. And then you request benevolent outcomes every day, and it raises your vibrational level at the same time keeping you on your soul contract so you don't go off on a different path that's not as good for your learning.
Fascinating how that all works, Tom, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've got David east of the Rockies in Jacksonville, Florida. Hey, David, let's get you in before the break. Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, I have a couple questions here about the aliens, the different types of aliens in general, and the possible star systems. Now, the Palladians are, as I understand, are more like human-like. Is that correct?
Some are. Okay, keep in mind there are thousands of planets in the Pleiades.
Yeah.
So they have a variety of different looking people or beings on those planets.
And it interests me like the Orions that the Egyptians normally associated with. Did they were like tall? Did they have green skin or what?
The Pleiadians?
No, or the Orions, what the Egyptians were associated with.
Yeah, I don't know. That's not a question I can answer.
In Craig Campobasso's book, he talks about grays, reptilians, hybrids, and Nordiques. Are there others, Tom?
Yeah. Most are beyond our beliefs. I mean, there are beings that look like they're just attached to the ground, but they're intelligent beings. So how do you classify them?
Your contact contacts you telepathy-wise. How often?
Well, when I do these meditative sessions, they don't interfere with my normal life.
If you don't do the session, you don't communicate?
Right.
Interesting take on that. Fantastic. And this documentary that you plan to do aboard a mothership will be done when?
I don't know. I've been told that I'm going to get this invitation so that we'll know, and that I will have to assemble my family at my house, and they're going to beam down from the scout ship to my back door and knock on the back door of the four team members of this grassroots contact team to introduce themselves.
And you'll let us know when it's ready to be viewed?
My daughter and I will have to prepare what's called a pitch deck in the film industry, and that's something that we will be showing to potential people like the
like Netflix and stuff like that. Tom, what if they beam you aboard a craft and they keep you?
Excuse me. That isn't going to happen. They it's all part of these soul contracts. That's all I can
So you trust them?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's Jeff in Santa Rosa, California. You're our next caller. Hey, Jeffrey, go ahead.
Hey, George, good talking with you again.
You too.
Thank you. There was a couple of Pleiadians that I spoke with that George interviewed months ago, maybe a year or so ago, a Vanguard and apparently a mission volunteer out of Oslo, Norway. And I asked them about androids and their weapon systems. I explained a little bit how they lock in place, and they have this laser fire. They said they weren't in charge of them. There is a vast army of androids, at least through the United States, and I'm assuming also globally, that use these weapon systems to record information, to invade other people's body, and that can actually kill. Since then, I found out that the Greys are the ones that are in charge of the frontline androids and the mission volunteers when the mission volunteers call in for a great offense. And that the mission volunteers, at least the one I am familiar with, also has the same weapon systems, but the body locks a little differently in order to get the deployment of the fire. I would like to know, I should add also that the mission volunteers insert. They don't reincarnate. Neither do any of the Pleiades. They insert. And this mission volunteer has bred with a real person and re-engineered the DNA to get another body container for another mission volunteer to come into that is also weaponized. And I would like to get your take on what you know about the androids and the android army that's on Earth, please.
Interesting.
Okay.
Tom, go ahead.
That's just not the information that I'm receiving. Okay? That's not, that would be against the Earth Directive. And the Zetas took advantage of a hole in the Earth Directive when they were abducting people, would match enough to create hybrids. But it took the Federation of Planets a little while when you've got 20,000 planets that I guess have to approve an amendment, but they did, and they no longer can abduct people. but that's the only. I just don't find any information about androids that would be against the Earth Directive. Sorry.
Interesting take. Could he be misled, do you think, Tom?
Well, gently, I would say probably. But,
I get it. Next up, let's go to Elisa in Oregon. Welcome to the program. Hi, Elise.
Hi, Tom. Hi, George.
Hi.
The more I'm on hold and listen, I have more questions I have.
Great.
So I narrowed it down to two. The first question is, you were saying about pets reincarnating, staying in the pet species.
Mm-hmm.
There was a guest that George had on a while back who claimed he was a horse in the past life, but he was a human in this life. Are you familiar with that?
Well, I am. Before your first life on Earth, you can have one life as an animal. In my case, I chose a panther in a jungle because my first life was going to be in a jungle. But I've been told that a lot of people choose horses, and I said, "Well, are any of them race horses?" And I was told if they do race, they're generally like fifth or sixth back. They don't win the race.
Why not?
That's they're just there to experience Earth and get their feet wet with these four negative energies, and so they're doing it an easy way with horses.
What's your other question, Lise? Go ahead.
My other question is these Pleiadian ships and whatnot, are they actually outside of time, and does that tie into the Mandela effect and the 12 different Earths? And I think he was cutting out.
Are they outside of it? Are they like time-traveling machines, Tom?
They can travel in time, yes. Okay. But the Mandela effect is something completely different because we're rewriting our past, present, and future all the time, and which is why I have a prayer that I say each morning. I ask any and all beings to aid, comfort, and assist people that have harmed either physically, mentally, morally, spiritually, or emotionally in any past, present, or future life. And I ask any and all beings to come to the aid and comfort of the families and friends of anyone that I've ever harmed in any way in any past, present, or future life. And supposedly that helps rewrite the past and future because you are, in some ways, hurting other people, whether it be physically or some other way in all your lives. So I have that little prayer, and it's on my website at you look under signs at my website.
All right, let's go to Joshua in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Hey, Josh, go ahead.
Hey, how we doing? Great topic. I have a question and a comment. My comment is I almost feel like we are the most attractive things in the universe, and maybe the reason why gods and the Nephilim come and take our women. And my question is, and I'll listen off air. My question is, the term old soul, new soul, is there any validity to that? And how are new souls made? If population keeps growing, where are these souls coming from? And if you're a new soul, how are you choosing to be here if you've never been here before? And if population just keeps going bigger and bigger, where are these souls coming from?
There's an old Hebrew saying, Tom, of the Gulf, where souls are kept like a depository. What do you think?
Okay. First of all, we are fragments of souls. And as an example, there are soul clusters where there are 6 to 12 fragments of a soul having lives on Earth. And while our souls are also having 500,000 to 1 million lives all across the universe for their learning. And there's a reason for that, but it's too long to get into. So we're these soul fragments, And on average, a soul fragment will have 600 to 800 lives on Earth. And at this time period, because there are so many people on Earth, 8 billion, we're actually having overlapping lives. So as an example, in the 20th century, I know I've had at least 5 or 6 overlapping lives going on at the same time, and that's probably the way it is for most people, that we have these lives because they need to fill the bodies, I guess.
Next up, we've got Jesse in Durango, Colorado. Hey, Jess, go ahead.
Hi, how are you?
We're good.
You and Tom doing?
Good. All good, thanks.
I wanted to find out if Tom had any or seen. The History Channel had a deal on Atlantis or the continent coming back up off of the base twice in the last 40 years is the only time I've been able to catch it. But the continent is slowly rising up, and they had sent a diver, the small unmanned dive unit down to see what was going on, and found structures and craft and whatnot, and wondered if he had heard anything about that, or if the combination of the two, with that as well as it coming up, because it's like 800 plus thousand square miles that's coming up.
But the continent itself broke up completely, except for like the Canary Islands and the Bahamas and Bermuda. It broke completely apart. So I mean, it's in pieces. So I don't see that continent ever rising again. That's maybe a nice story, but I just don't think that's going to happen.
All right, let's take a few more calls here as we still have a little bit of time left. Let's go next to Stephen in Greenwater, Washington. Stephen, go ahead, sir.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Stephen.
I'm curious. I want to ask your guest about Bigfoot, if he knows anything about Bigfoot, and if so, any of the other cryptids connected to missing hunters and campers and hikers, and they're not friendly. Go ahead.
Okay. And you could go on my website to that articles and news page, and you type in Bigfoot or type in Sasquatch, and you'll find I've asked a lot of questions. I understand that they're able to shift dimensions, and which is why we don't see them very often. They're pretty shy beings, and they're just able to shift away and not be where we can see them very often. So I don't know a lot about them, but I have. If you go there, I have asked some questions, but I've asked so many questions over a time period I don't remember.
That's another book by itself, Tom, isn't it?
Yeah.
Questions I've asked. Melissa in Middletown, Connecticut. Hey, Melissa, welcome to the program.
Hello. Thank you so much. I literally sit after work. I work overnights, and I sit in my car to listen to you all the time.
Thank you. Don't fall asleep.
No, it's too late to fall asleep at this point. But I am so interested in this whole subject. I have so many questions, and I think it all leads down to one basic thing. You were talking about that you understand your wife is going to be someone else in another life, and as will you. So it leads me to believe this whole continuous time, everything happens all at once. But yet, how can we go back to visit, let's say, past loved ones that we have left in the past and still lead a future life while choosing our souls when, from my understanding, we can go to any planet or anywhere we want? So how does that all connect into one soul?
Okay.
Like one
our souls volunteered for the Earth experiment. So our soul fragments are having these 600 to 800 lives on Earth, and you can go, you can have these lives. You can go back to the past and have one, or you can go forward. My next life on Earth will be in the 3400 era, where I'm going to be a female space pilot. But after that, I'm going to go back to 2600 era to prepare people for interplanetary travel, and then back to the 3400 era for another life there. But then even after that, I go back, and I'm going to have some lives back in the 20th century, where I'm going to be an advisor to a couple of religious leaders. So,
Tom, are you prepared for just about anything with these ETs?
Well, I'm trying to. That's all you can do is just say, hey, I know I'm going to be godsmacked, I guess would be the word, in seeing this, but I've got a job to do, and that's my solo contract, so I'm going to do it the best I can.
Do you think your life has been leading up to this point?
Oh, yeah. And as I was told back in November, December, well, Tom, 2023 is here, and now the real work begins.
When you were a little boy, did you have any of these episodes with ETs?
No.
None at all?
I don't remember if I did.
But you sure have them now.
Yeah.
And again, this newsletter is basically a conversation with the ET, isn't it?
Well, not only Antura, but I also ask questions each week of Gaia, the soul of the Earth. I ask all the Earth questions, like in this past newsletter that's just going out now, I asked for an update on Yellowstone. It's still a 73% probability that the volcano is going to explode. And on the West Coast earthquakes, it's still sitting at 63%. It's been that way for about a year.
It'll happen indeed. Tom, thanks. Keep in touch. Let us know about that documentary aboard the mothership, okay?
Will do. Thank you.
The Coast mobile app is now available for download on iPhones and Android devices. You can become an insider directly through this app. This is a great option for our international listeners, and new users will also receive a free 2-week trial.